results. Remember, when Thomas Edison, when he invented the light bulb, he actually was doing something different for all those thousands of times that he tried. He wasn't doing the same thing over and over. So as we look into, what I and we have coined, going from the new normal to the next normal, what is it that we have to continue to do? And, I really kind of wanted to get started, and I'll give it back to you, Marcella. But one last thing I wanted to say is that it's been disheartening to me that a lot of people have really allowed themselves to kind of become sloppy and dumbed down. They get on a Zoom, they're making a sandwich in the background, the dog's barking, they're in their pajamas, it's, folks, and this is how we're going to lead into our first point here. What is your routine? Start it now or continue it now. I know we've continued it. And one of the first things that we were talking about when we put this together, both of you, Carolina and Marcelo, is what's the first thing that you do when you get up in the morning? What's the first thing you do? Marcella, you told me what it is.
My LinkedIn.
Well, no, before
wake
that.
up, I check LinkedIn.
No, you make your bed. You told me you make your bed, and there's a book called Make Your Bed. Read it.
I have to agree. I have to agree with Susan.
Seriously, in all honesty, the first thing I do before I get out of bed is I check my phones.
Well, that we all do, yes.
LinkedIn, then I get up, make my bed, and make coffee. But that really is the God's honest truth before I roll out of bed, because I want to make sure I don't miss a birthday.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I didn't miss something overnight, because some folks are up at night because they have children home now. Right. So they're working at night. So my phone may have gone off several times at 2, 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, and I didn't hear it. So that really is the truth. And then you're right about making your bed. And one of the things is also true now that I've seen, some people do put up their avatar.
Yes.
And they don't come present to some of the meetings. You'll hear them audio, but you won't see their face. And I was on a couple of different meetings this week, and it's going to change like the face of a lot of even how companies are going to be directing, their employees about coming to meetings present, even if you're not coming to a company meeting. Right. But if you're charged with during the day, whether it's attending a networking event, whether it's attending a webinar on a certain subject matter, to be present and show that you're present as we are here today.
My mother always said, Susan, I think you and I talked about this, dress for the job you want, not for the job you have. And Susan, to your point, it is incredible and incredibly important that people don't understand that. Your car, your home, your desk, your office, the way you present yourself, it's a calling card. You only have a couple seconds to make a first impression. And if you don't take pride in how you're showing up on these Zooms, how can you expect that client to hire you or that person to refer to you if you're not taking pride in your presentation?
I do want to say to those who are listening, so the book is, I think it's 94 pages. And it's called Make Your Bed, and it's written by a former military guy, William McRaven. And the reason this book really pertains to what we're talking about today is because it talks about positive daily habits, not just when we go back, but like we're doing them now for a healthy mind. And it's just a very, very smart, very succinct book. And I really would recommend it to anyone who's listening. It's a short read. And I'm all about the motivational reads, but when you make your bed, your room, I don't care if you have clothes hanging around the room. When you make your bed, you walk into your room and you've got one piece of your life that's in order, and the rest goes from there. So that's it. So yes, Miss Marcella, you're the MC today. So go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't want to usurp your time here.
No, absolutely. No, because you bring up a very, very valid point is keeping routines. And keeping to point with that. Things that you've always done, keep to them, but also incorporate some new ones, because we have the time factor on our side. The time factor is that we're no longer commuting. We're no longer going place to place. We save so much time with that.
By the way, and gentlemen, you'll have to forgive Jane Curick for her comment, which I love. And that is, and ladies, put on your lipstick. And, I always quote Christy. Yes! The only makeup a woman ever needs is sunglasses and lipstick. But I'm looking at something that's a poster, not a poster, a picture that someone gave me, and it says, pour yourself a drink, put on some lipstick, and pull yourself together. Now, forget the drink when we're working, but Put on your lipstick and put yourself together. Gentlemen, if you're not wearing a tie, press your shirt, put on your pressed khakis, and get yourself together so that you at least are looking business casual no matter what, every single day. And you feel better. You feel better when you look better. But thank you, Jane, for that. And Sam just said he doesn't wear lipstick. Right. So Sam, get your shirt pressed. The dry cleaners are still open, and put on your khaki pants. All right. So that's good. Not like the anchor that was sitting there with his boxer shorts on. You don't know that? Yeah, definitely. So what else do we need to know, Marcella?
So guys, I'm going to have to actually jump off. So I'm going to thank you very much for including me today. And I will see you next week, ladies. Have a wonderful show.
Okay. Thanks, KD. Thanks for showing up. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Okay. Be safe and be well.
So back to where we were, Marcella, with our second point. So I think we've driven that home, and we kind of are driving a lot of the same points home every week. Why? Because I don't know what the number is. Is it 7 times that we have to do something before it actually becomes a habit? So we want to maintain the good habits, because once, I'm not going to call them floodgates, but once the gates crack open, we want to be first.
That's right.
And that's part of the premise today. So, okay, so go ahead.
So we're looking at best practices, was actually another point that we wanted to make. Like, what are some of the best practices? And maybe you can share, like you did too, with making the bed. I shared about, checking LinkedIn, checking Facebook, looking at my calendar before I jump out of bed in the morning. But keeping to a best practice and what it is that everybody can do and keep in their life. Does anybody have anything that they want to chime in? Yes. And maybe make some comments as to what are some of the best practices that you have employed, or that you've always had and that you continue to do, or perhaps some that are maybe new to you that you maybe had on your wish list to be able to employ before, but maybe now that you can. Does anyone have anything to add, or anybody have a suggestion or something that they have in their toolbox and want to share?
Jane?
Yeah, what I was going to say, thank you, Susan, and thank you, Marcella, for including me in these. I think one of the things, and I've always taken some time to call it meditate or be grateful, mindful. I think the increased attention that this whole time has brought on that taking time for self-care, being mindful, and meditation, I think that I've increased that over the weeks.
Self-care, I really, people think it's like a joke, or, like a peace, love, and go-go boots kind of thing. It really isn't. I think that, Marcel and I are with the same instructor. I did my yoga lattes at 9 o'clock. That's part of my routine. That doesn't mean I don't have 6 or 7 more appointments coming down the pike, but I have to do that, because if I don't do that, I'm not going to feel invigorated. I'm not going to feel like I'm continuing what I always did, except I'm not getting in the car and going there. So self-care, and a lot of people will say, oh, I don't have time for that. Well, if you
have to make it.
You've got to, it's that old thing, right? Put the oxygen mask on yourself first, or you're not going to be able to do anything else. So good point, Jane. Really good point.
Well, the self-care piece comes in line with whether you have a positive or negative attitude. That does affect your attitude and how positive you're going to be, for the day. When you set your mindset, and part of the self-care piece, Jane, you're right on the money with that. And it's very true. You started yours out tonight. That's how I'll end my night, is with yoga.
Has anybody seen, I saw the advertisement a number of times now. So it's an app, and it's called Calm, and it plays, the ocean, or plays music, like I think at 15 minutes at a time. So if you are a little anxiety ridden or something, or you don't know how to chill yourself out, there's an app called Calm, C-A-L-M. So just another little tidbit that you might want to give a shot to. What about you, Sam? What do you do to keep well?
Me? I drink wine.
Okay.
I'll do that.
I check all the social media, LinkedIn, before I get up as well. And I try to think of a post that I'm going to post every day.
That's good.
I think it generates interest. People view it. I'm also on WhatsApp. So my brother told me on WhatsApp, you can put a status and it lasts for 24 hours. So if you're trying to advertise something of your business or just a quote of the day, it's a pretty good app. You're familiar with WhatsApp?
Yes, I am. I communicate with people around the world on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It has really good graphics. The images that you post are more vibrant than on a regular like text or an Instagram post. So it's just thinking of new ways of communicating with people, you know.
Jane, I hope we can. Jane just told me she booked a 6:40 a.m. I got to tell you, I would be right there with you, Jane, if that's all I could get, a 6:40 a.m. tea time. I'm playing tomorrow at noon. And again, sorry, I mean, there's enough hours in the week. I'm going to come home at 5 o'clock. I'll be with my 2 people that night that I have to have sessions with, and that's it. So, but that's great self-care, Jane, that you're making that a point.
Mm-hmm.
And
hopefully I don't hit anybody on the course, right? I mean,
well, as long as you don't hold them up, I'm okay.
But and I go back to this. I think in this time right now, these. I know some of you are on Zoom the whole day. I dial in to 2 or 3. I'm recently retired, as Susan and Marcella know, and I find this connection with people. I'm a people person. You two agree?
Yes.
Somewhat.
Yes.
And it's been hard. It's been awfully hard. And I know each one of you, I mean, in your business, you two are people. I mean, Chamber, I just came off a call with Chamber, and they're talking with lawyers and legislators. What is a Chamber event going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's it going to look like?
Right.
You know, and Marcella, I've known you for Susan. I think that's where we met, was Chamber.
Yes, I think I spoke and you met me there.
Yeah. So that's the new, things to consider.
Well, and you know why I always say, and I chair a couple of golf tournaments and obviously my different events. I don't make money on a dinner ticket at $159, right? People think I do, but I don't. What you make money on, and the Chamber people know this, is the sponsors. So it's going to be hard to get sponsors. I mean, it's going to happen because we talked about this in an earlier trifecta, that Bill Gates says that's the way the world is going, that we're going the way of virtual conferences. But we've also discussed that there's something about seeing someone in person. You know, when I played my first round of golf last week and I was with my friend Barbara, I was like, oh my God, Barbara, it's so good to see you, to actually see a person, and talk to them live. And you know that, Marcella, even when you see your kids, even though they're whatever across the yard, it's still different than just seeing them on a Zoom. So in any event, I think that that'll be a big question to see how the Chamber will do that. Because you're talking about events. I know when I spoke, there were 200 people in the audience, Marcella, back in 2012 when I spoke for the women's group. So I don't know how you get them all on Zoom.
I don't know
how they network on Zoom. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So
well, there's also something to be said, and you don't want to diminish. There's pros and cons on each. I think they both serve different parts of communication within our life and going forward. When everyone's in a group, you get the feel of what the person is, and there's also an energy that's translated. I do know that that's been said to me quite often, that when you have that featured speaker, even when I would have like my in-person Chamber events, as well as when we do our awards dinner and you're up there at the podium, you feel the energy in the room. If
Definitely.
You're that type of person and you're set in motion for how you're presenting, is that you're actually feeling that energy throughout the entire room. And there's something to be said for that. And the connectivity of that in-person conversation, as well as introduction and to what that looks like. Yes, there is something to be said for that. And at the same token, we put in plans, even with the Chamber, as to how things would be going forward with the webinar piece. It's the same thing with Lakeland Bank as to doing the webinars. But with the Chamber, to your point about sponsorship, we still have the same sponsors in line for that, because through email distribution, those sponsors are still getting into the inbox of each and every person that's part of that Chamber or part of your group. So they're still having the exposure. Their name is still getting there, so they're still top of mind
So then I would go into now another best practice. And again, you'll hear me repeat the same things over and over again because they work. And that is follow up. And I was working with someone actually that has hired me from the Lakeland, the Lunch and Learn that we did last week. And I went through her LinkedIn notifications and I could see she was going back. She met somebody on a thing, on a Zoom, and she's like, all right, well, let's have a virtual coffee. And the other person said, okay. And that was the end of the conversation. No. So I can only, this is right now to get into that best practice when you meet somebody on a Zoom call. And, I think we did make an introduction to you, Diana, to Andy. Am I right? I hope you followed that up, you too.
Well, as well, Jean also reached out to me, so I was very impressed with that. And we're going to
Good. Excellent. Yeah, that was going to be my next thing because I know he did. So, and again, whether we have something immediately or we don't, it doesn't matter. That person becomes part of your sphere of influence. And when you're able to say to someone, yeah, do you know somebody that I can buy this from or develop this or do that? And you're the person that is able to give that referral. That person is not going to forget that. You're not getting anything from that. And who cares? It's not about that. But it is about the follow-up that turns into just a bigger and bigger network. I mean, we are, and I forget where I read it. I read so much, but we are no longer 6 degrees of separation. We are actually only 2. So if I were to sit with you, Diana, or Helen, or anyone else who's listening here today, I could probably figure out there'd be somebody in between the two of us that we both know. Whereas maybe 20 years ago, there may have been 6 people that would have led me to you. So we have to remember, and again, follow up. This is a best practice for right now. Follow up with all these people, because when that door opens, hey, maybe then you can say, let's have a real cup of coffee together, or maybe you will start doing business with that person. But if you can't keep filing these things aside. If you do a little bit every single day, it morphs into something much bigger than you. So.
Well, because you can't say when things change.
They're changing.
And that's what I hear. I hear that quite frequently. Oh, when things go back to, or when things change, or when things go back, or when I get a chance. Like even when you'll have a conversation. I'll be listening, to conversations with those that are in a lot of these different networking groups, and as well as seminars. They'll say, well, when things go back, when things change, and when I can, you can't think like that. You got to continue into what you have. Yeah. You got to think, well, this is what I have, and this is what I have to work with. And this is how I have to move forward for what is now, and plan for later, yes, but plan for the way it is now, and maybe in baby steps as to what would be. So you still have to continue, to your point, follow up, make the phone call, have a text message. Maybe the times are different. That's something else that I've observed. I see that people, maybe things are happening a little bit later sometimes, because maybe folks have getting their kids ready at home, and their day is starting at 9 o'clock instead of at 8 o'clock. So I've changed a lot of the different things, whether it's Warren Ladies Lunch, or whether it's Chamber, whether it's Lakeland Bank. And instead of having happy hours at 5:30, some of them have been starting happy hour, meaning that we're networking on a casual basis, like we had last Friday. It's starting at 4:30 or 5 o'clock.
Right.
As opposed to a 5:30 or a 6.
Right.
Because people are just, their days are different. So you have to pay attention to that. Be open, be aware, be open to changing, be open to meeting new people, be open to have those conversations, because you never know where one opportunity will lead into the next opportunity. And to your point about follow-up, on all different platforms of social media, you have to follow up.
And just in life, I mean, we've always had to do that. And it's just remarkable to me that people don't. I mean, they'll meet somebody and they'll say, we must have lunch. And okay, but who's going to make the first step? I mean, it's generally me. I have to tell you the truth. It's and I know it's probably you, Marcella, knowing the two of us, but it's generally me. If I say, and this goes back to say what you mean and mean what you say. If you do that, people want to know, how do you build your brand? You build it by saying what you mean and meaning what you say. It's by being truthful, candid. It's by showing up, following up. It's by letting people know by your actions, not just what you say, but what you do. And that, I know a lot of this may sound like fluff to you folks, but if you really think about yourself, and you really ask yourself, are you doing all these things? And I hope you are. But if you're not, these are things that you can change to really transform how you're going to come back, because it's not going to go away that we're going to be with people. I mean, it's not going to go away. Right now, it's a little bit skewed, but it's not going to go away. And so we really have to be mindful of that. While we're on this topic, before we go to our third point, I mean, is there anybody that has something that that they're maybe wrestling with this, or struggling with, or has an idea, or that we could comment on? Is there anything that you're working on that you need help with? Or is there a habit that you have that you think has been transformational during this time? The question really being, what has this time done for you? What does it look like for you? What have you changed, or what have you been grappling with?
I think one thing I've noticed, Marcel, I think you started to pinpoint it, is there's less kind of standards. So I've worked from home
You weren't
a lot
even
more.
here, Helen. You weren't even here. That was the first thing we talked about.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, it's all over the place, and you could be, one person wants you to talk at 5 a.m. And someone else wants you to talk at midnight. So it's all over the place, and I think people are also distracted, so it's harder to get their focus.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people are better at it than others, and you know what? I think we also have to give ourselves and other people a little more leeway,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, just because everybody reacts to these kinds of things differently, and it's a lot of change. I do agree with what you guys were saying in terms of this is not a permanent, this is going to change permanently. There's no getting over the hump and that's it. It's we get over the hump, but then you got to get ready for the next thing. So I think all of that is just a lot for people to take in, and you've got to be a little bit flexible in terms of how you operate. I think eventually there will be a routine, but right now I think you have to be more flexible.
Flexible, but not sloppy. And we were talking about some of the sloppiness that we see on Zooms. That, I mean, that's your brand, though. If that's your brand and you're happy with that, that's okay,
Yep.
But generally speaking, we kind of want to elevate who we are and differentiate ourselves. So what's our third point as we come up to the half hour? We always want to keep it brief, you guys, because we want you to come back. And if we drone on and on, you won't. So what was our third point, Marcella?
Third point was keeping positive. And are you going to be positive or negative? I mean, how are you going to come into the fact of win, place, or show? And what does that look like to you and for you? How do you want to show up when, as we're going through this? And we've covered a lot of those points in terms of keeping to the self-care piece, keeping to a routine, following up, being flexible. Helen, that was a great point, because that really does drive a lot of this home, is being flexible with people's routines, because things are different. And everyone's home situation, you don't know what that's like. You don't know what it is. So you really don't know when they're available. Because I've seen some odd times where people would say to me, by the way, are you available at 6:30 in the morning? And I'm like, yeah, that's actually when I'll take my first call. And Susan knows that she's laughing, because she said to me, are you available? I'd be like, yeah, right now we're good. There's two other people besides you that are good like that with me for early in the morning, because that's like one of the best times to catch me.
Yeah.
To have, a longer than 15-minute conversation, we could scope out some time, is early in the morning. But everybody's schedule is different. And how do we morph, and how do we change, and how do we make those accommodations, being a little bit forgiving? I also did have, happen this week. I had someone that I did have scheduled for a lunch and learn, and they said, Marcella, I forgot. And I was like, okay, it's okay. We'll just reschedule. I didn't promote it because I didn't have the information to promote it yet. And it's okay, because I know that everybody has a bad day, more now. And they may not share it and may not say it, but I want to be that safe place.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. For those that I work with, I want to be the safe place for that.
I think that's great. And, it's funny. I was just saying to someone, you think we're all home, right? We really can't. There's not many places we can go. Well, maybe now we can go to the golf course or to the park, but we, in spite of our flexible schedules and all that, but personally, I find myself, I don't know, I am just so, forget the regular part of business, just busy. I mean, busy. And I find that a lot of the business, we talked about this, is just, there are a lot of people to touch. There are a lot of between friends and clients, former clients, potential clients, just people in your life that, I think of some of the people that I, just see. I think of servers in restaurants that I may have their phone numbers and I would text them about something. I feel like I have to text these people. So when I by the end of the day, I look at my calendar and what I've done, and you're saying to yourself, you're in a pandemic. You can't go anywhere. You really can't do anything, but you do have the phone and the email and the Zooms, and the day just gets filled up. So, but we want to make sure that we're filling it up with something that's meaningful for sure, so
Yeah.
it's important.
Something that's meaningful. And what you just said, you just touched on social capital again,
Mhm.
because social capital comes in all shapes and sizes. It's how you build it within your business network and in your personal, interpersonal relationships. Because even with the servers that you're texting or emailing or saying hello to,
Mhm.
there's someone that's there that's going to be there when, going into a restaurant to give the best possible service when you're taking a business client into that restaurant, no matter how that restaurant looks going forward.
And again, I know I've quoted her. I quote her a lot. Maya Angelou, the great philosopher. It's always, we have to know how we are making people feel. And at this time, to be able to make someone feel good is, I know if I make someone feel good, then I feel good. I'm not making them feel, I know it sounds a little Pollyannish, but it's really not. It just makes me feel good to contact someone that maybe I haven't spoken to in a while, or maybe I only speak to them on their birthday. But now it's like, how you doing? By the way, it's interesting, on one of my podcasts, my podcast partner is like, just please don't ask me what's new. You can ask me anything. Just don't ask me what's new, because there's not a lot of new stuff going on right now. But anyway, so on that, I think on that note, we would love to hear from anybody's final comments, questions. If you don't have any, that's okay. Marcella, what are your parting words?
Parting words are to stay as best as you can in the best possible light in your life, and keep doing what you're doing if it's working, and incorporate some new routines, but keep to it. And don't let a day that you might say to yourself, like what happened to me when the person called me up and say they forgot. You know what? You have a bad day. It's okay. Get back on the horse, get on it for the next day, and just keep on going. Don't say, "Oh, I had a bad day. Oh my God, now this is all." No. Keep to a plan. Keep pressing forward. You're having a day like that. Call somebody motivational. Call a coach. Call somebody. Call one of us. Like and say, "Hey, by the way, I need you to get me started today. I need some assistance." Don't be afraid to ask for help. I've held that most people now, to your point, if you do something good to help somebody feel good, it makes you feel good. Ask. And don't feel like it's not okay to ask, because now's the time to do that. Put the ask, and then when someone will be so kind as to reach out to you and say, "Hey, by the way, I need some help," then you can be there for them. It's this whole give and take piece that's even more to the forefront now than it ever was before. And that's even also how you build your social capital, and while you help others build theirs.
Exactly. So as we close, if anybody can interrupt me, but as we close, we are going, again, everything is fluid. Marcella and I generally put our heads together somewhere Wednesday, Thursday to try and figure out what's been going on. But we decided that, there's a lot out there about, your payroll protection plans, your small business loans, your taxes, your benefits. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we want to be the Motivational Monday people. So you're going to see us again next Monday. And if you have any friends or anybody that needs to be on this list because they're not getting maybe this, please, Helen, you're a marketing person. You know how important that is. Please send them along to us, and we'll get them on the list. We'll make sure they're here. And if there's anything that we've said this before during the week, that you read or you want to talk about or bring up, shoot us an email. You have our emails, and we'd love to learn more about what would help you. So, okay. Thank you all for coming and showing up. And give us a call if you need us, okay? And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Marcella.
Nice meeting everybody. Bye-bye.
Everybody. Bye-bye.